Hi, I'm Shannon with ClusterFix, and we specialize in electronic instrument cluster repair for speedometers, tachometers, and other gauges that are located in our instrument cluster. And today we're demonstrating on the removal of an instrument cluster from a 2003 GMC Sierra. They're pretty easy to do, and they're very similar to the Silverados, to the Denalis, to the Avalanche, to the Yukon, to the Tahoe. Some other models, some of the other SUVs are a little different, a little more difficult, but not too hard, and the cars, but like an Envoy or a Trailblazer may have some screws under the knee bolster that you'll have to remove, and there will be a few up on the top side of the trim panel, and maybe one or two by the stereo. But this particular one, which we see a lot of on 2003 to 2006 General Motors vehicles, were affected by a faulty gauge motor that they had installed in the instrument cluster. And what we do is we rebuild and repair these instrument clusters with an updated version of that motor and updated instrument cluster bulbs for the backlighting when they do burn out. So we're going to just demonstrate the removal of this instrument cluster and what it takes to do it. First thing you want to do is tilt your steering wheel all the way down, and then take your gear selector, move it all the way to the down position. And on this Sierra, we don't, the trim panel is just held in by clips. There's no screws holding this particular model on, as I stated earlier, and you generally don't even need a tool to get it off. You can do it with your fingernails, but if you need a tool, I recommend using a non-marring pry tool. This particular one's made of plastic, and you get in there and you pop it, and that pops the clip out, and that loosens it up, and then you can go all the way around the trim panel, loosening it up, and then just be careful when you remove it not to force anything and crack it. And you just move this out of the way. Once your trim panel is out of the way, your instrument cluster is exposed. Generally they're held in by 4 7mm screws, which you can remove with a nut driver, a socket, and extension. Some models are actually, they slide in and kind of clip in there, and they've got a little locking tab that you release to release the lock that holds the cluster in, and that's pretty self-evident when you get down to it. You can use your fingers or a little screwdriver. This particular one uses 7mm screws, so the next thing we do is remove the 4 screws that hold the instrument cluster in. Okay, now the instrument cluster is loose, and you can tilt it back and move it forward, which exposes the connector. And the connector has a squeeze tab that's actually a locking tab, and you squeeze it to release the locking mechanism right there. If it's difficult for you, you can get a little pick tool or a screwdriver in there to make it easier to do so. But before you disconnect it, you put your shift back up in park, and you remove your key from the ignition, turning the ignition off, of course, and you just wiggle that connector out of there, just like this. Lay it aside, and now you have your instrument cluster in your hand. From this point, it is ready to send off for repair, or whatever you need to do to service it. You want to be careful, don't touch the pins in the back. I usually put some tape over them just to protect them from any static electricity or from anything penetrating them and causing problems. This particular one is out of an 03 Sierra, as I stated, and many of them are similar to this. And if you have any further questions, one question I get asked a lot is, can I drive my vehicle with the instrument cluster removed? And on a GM you can do so. You just don't have, of course, your gauges to tell you what your engine's doing and what your fuel level is, so you'd have to do that at your own risk, but they can be driven. Once they're reinstalled, you may have a check engine light that's on because the computer has recognized the instrument cluster hasn't been in there, but it usually resets itself in a few trips, or you can remove it with a scan tool. If you have any more questions, you can visit our website at www.clusterfix.net or call me personally at 509-366-9009. Thank you.